Picture this. The Earth and most of its inhabitants are about to face extinction, but you and a handful of others, including your closest loved ones, are lucky enough to be on a ship used for survival. Almost the entire framework of your life has been changed to adjust to such an unfortunate circumstance. Your mind is forced to contemplate on a series of things such as the tragedies that come with living your life. Right when you are at your most vulnerable, being slowly dipped into a stew of sadness, uncertain about what you may have to face in the future, a cheerful story comes to mind that your grandmother used to tell you when you were little. You now have enough inspiration to fuel you for days on end, and all of a sudden, what started as a nightmare that you would run away from has changed into a dream that you would like to explore. Hi, I am Jason Sanders, and welcome to the South Carolina Taste for Literature podcast, every English teacher's favorite podcast in the whole state of South Carolina. Today we are going to talk about and review a young adult literature novel that came out a few years ago called The Last Cuentista by Donna Baba Higuera. For those of you who are either interested in this novel or even started reading it, I will be careful not to give any spoilers. This book is set in the year 2061 and tells the story of a 12-year-old named Picho Piña. She embarks on a ship that is headed to another planet when Earth becomes at risk of being hit by the fire-like Halley's Comet. She has been allowed on the ship thanks to the fact that her parents are scientists used for the flourishing of a new settlement, her mother being a botanist and her father being a geologist. Sagan, the planet that she and others are headed to, is treated as providing a new start for the human race. She is eventually put into a period of stasis and, fast forward to around 375 years later, she wakes up to a reality where everything looks different. The technology on the ship is advanced, but it does not resemble anything on Earth. She eventually decides to find her parents and her younger brother Javier. In the process of doing so, she meets her newfound friends Suma, Rubio, Foxy, and Feathers. She is clearly an effective leader for these four, especially Feathers, since she not only makes sure that they are safe, but also guarantees that they are nurtured with enough inspiration to do good things. Because of her grandmother Lida, what separates Petra from the average preteen is that she has a wealth of meaningful stories to tell. For instance, on chapter 16, page 124, she told Feathers a story about a girl named Blancaflor. She was able to bring a king's son back to his home. Because of her skills, quote, he made Blancaflor his hire and next ruler of his kingdom. She chose the prince as her sidekick for his knowledge of the kingdom, where she ruled with intelligence and kindness, unquote. From an early age, Petra was taught that it is possible for the world to get better as long as there are enough people doing good things. On top of that, it makes life more worth living when it becomes possible for the good-hearted to prosper. Unfortunately, the collective, the governmental force controlling the ship that Petra's on, wants all of humanity's history to be left behind. They also want to wipe the memories of all the people put in stasis. Fortunately, Ben, one of the scientists on the ship, was able to make sure that all of Petra's memories were still intact by the time she woke up to her future world. According to Chancellor Nyla of the Collective, on chapter 15, page 110, quote, what happened to the former world was not a tragedy. It was an opportunity to leave our past behind. Thanks to the Collective, not a single memory of a world filled with conflict, starvation, or war will find its way into our future. Personally, the first thing that comes to mind whenever I read this passage is Jeremiah chapter 3 verses 6 through 7. Here it says, quote, Have you seen what faithless Israel has done? She has gone up on every high hill and under every spreading tree and committed adultery there. I thought that after she had done all this she would return to me, but she did not. And her unfaithful sister Judah saw it. While both quotations reveal the human race's legacy of wickedness, the book of Jeremiah addresses something that Nyla fails to realize. No matter how horrible the past has been, it is always good for people to learn from it. This piece of wisdom is powerful enough to encourage humanity to further redeem itself. How can a society create a better world without reflecting on the historical past? If we could meet face to face with the scribes of olden times and ask them what they would think of the collective's agenda, they would likely feel emotionally hurt from the fact that their very craftsmanship of record keeping is being disrespected. This theme arises in other pieces of sci-fi entertainment, such as Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. One of the characters is Gamora, who, in the context of the story, is not the exact same person who appeared in the first two Guardians of the Galaxy movies. In the movie Avengers Infinity War, she is killed by the main antagonist, Thanos. The Gamora that we see in Volume 3 is who she was before she met her team. Throughout the movie, Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, tries to get this Gamora to see how much the two were in love at one point, but he is unsuccessful. By the end of the movie, Gamora tells him that she is still not the person he wants her to be. Quill responded by saying that he understands. With a smile, Gamora then said, quote, "I bet we were fun," unquote. He responded by wholeheartedly agreeing with her. Peter made the mistake of not letting go of the past, but at the same time, that does not mean that he cannot reflect upon it in order to learn from it. This single sentence embodies every healthy relationship between human beings, since it shows that, in the end, all the memories that we have with our loved ones are used for personal growth. Spider-Man No Way Home is another movie that is reminiscent of the last Cuentista. After spending a considerable amount of time with both Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, Tom Holland's Spider-Man was able to learn from the both of them. This allowed him to reflect on his past mistakes as well as avoid making those that the other two Spider-Men made. By the end of the film, Tom Holland's Spider-Man goes toe-to-toe with the Green Goblin, who killed his aunt. When he finally had the Green Goblin at his mercy, he took his Goblin glider and prepared to kill him. Right when he was about to kill him, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man took a hold of the glider to prevent him from killing the Green Goblin. Mr. Maguire's Spider-Man knows what it is like to seek revenge. He wants Tom Holland's Spider-Man to know that if you were to kill the Green Goblin, it would be out of line. These movie scenes and quotations reveal why it is important to document and remember the past as a whole. Along with revealing the importance of recording the past, The Last Cuentista also teaches that people should not be ashamed of their heritage. Petra once said on chapter 16, page 122, quote, "I remember what Lita said about my stories. Never be ashamed of where you come from or the stories your ancestors bring to you. Make them your own," unquote. One can at least get an idea of how much effort our ancestors put into sharing these stories. They have told us timeless, thoughtful narratives so that each of us could have good moral values. Even though the world may not be perfect, it is good to know that there is always an opportunity to improve it. This can motivate anyone to get out of bed in the morning and try to make the world a better place. People like Petra have enough talent to do so. For example, she can use her skills as a storyteller / historian for the new settlement on Sagan. She has the potential to teach other young kids so that they will have the chance to grow up with at least some form of culture. In my opinion, she could be fit to teach both an ethics and a Mexican folklore course. Just imagine the legacy that she could establish to honor her dear grandmother Lita. In general, this novel is perfect for all ages. It is especially good for young children ages 12 to 19 interested in science fiction. I guarantee that it would be such a joy to read for people of Hispanic heritage. So, if you have a young family member who likes to read, this would be the perfect birthday present for them. It is paced in a way to keep your attention from the beginning to the end. At one moment, you are invested in a beautiful story that can be traced back to Mexican mythology, while at another moment, you are wondering if Petra will ever find her family. As far as having any concerns, I have just one question. When will Miss Higuera come out with a sequel? It has been 3 years since this book has been published, and I am still waiting on a new entry to turn The Last Cuentista into a book series. From the moment you gaze upon the cover of this book, you will want to read it. By the time you are finished reading it, you are left astonished and wanting more. In the end, Miss Higuera's The Last Cuentista is worthy of a 9.5 out of 10 rating. Thank y'all so much for listening to this episode of the South Carolina Taste for Literature podcast. This is your host, Jason Sanders, and you will hear from me whenever another great book comes my way. If you're listening to this in the car, drive carefully now. If you're listening to this at home with a plate of good food and a cup of iced cold tea, enjoy yourself. Peace.